Hello, it's katekhmel again, Vedic astrologer and dating and relationships coach. So today we'll make another video on astrology, on astrology of personal relationships, and today we're going to talk about romantic compatibility, because I get a lot of questions about it. And it's really interesting, but it can be very confusing at the same time for people, because they keep listening on all those videos and reading articles on compatibility, and everybody, and there are a lot of different techniques to use, and they're all telling you something. But so people have a hard time really sorting it out, because they get sometimes opposite readings. So what's important to understand is that there is always a foundation. There is a foundational compatibility, and in Vedic astrology and the technique that astrologers have been using for thousands of years to arrange marriages. So the foundation is still going to be comparing two people's moon signs, and particularly nakshatras, so those sub-signs, the smaller moon signs. That will give you a very good idea about the pattern of the relationship. So that'll tell you a lot of things, and it's a complicated system. It has a lot of tools, and we won't be able to discuss all of them. But I will mention a few that you can quickly see, and that it will give you a pretty good idea about compatibility. So always first of all look at the moon signs, and you can compare, of course, all other planets. Like, let's say, when people have very compatible moons, very compatible sun signs, what I see that people sometimes may have similar careers. They look good together often. And the couple, like people say, oh, you look good together. Well, it's not necessarily you're very compatible emotionally. And that's what moon signs are telling you. So, because that's telling you how you are emotionally. It's telling you about this instinctive compatibility. So you can compare also, each other's Venus signs or Mars signs. So that will tell you about sexual compatibility, and that actually very revealing sometimes. Because the truth is, even though when we compare two moon signs, they have this part, like, sexual compatibility there, but the truth is, a lot of times I see either average sexual compatibility between moon signs, or below average. But then I look at people's Venus and Mars signs, and it really, enhancing it. It makes it much better, or you can make it worse. So you can, and it's, sometimes there's a problem. Like, I'll give you an example of my recent client. We'll discuss this. So today we're gonna talk about the moon signs, what you can see from the moon signs. And we'll not go into nakshatras, because it's more complicated. But we'll talk about the zodiac signs of the moons. So one thing you can check is that there's this thing that's called respect, and it's very important in compatibility. So what we want to see is that a woman's moon sign has to follow the man's sign. So let's say a man has a moon in Aries, and we want to see a woman has her moon sign that follows the sign of Aries, like it goes, in the order by the circle, like the zodiac signs go. So if a woman has her moon in Taurus or Gemini, so this is, it means that they have a good respect score. And we don't want to see too much distance between the signs. So the shorter it is, the better. And sometimes it can be the same sign, and it's always attraction. So then we want to see the nakshatras, how they follow. If woman's nakshatra follows the man's nakshatra. So why? Because in this case, when there is a good respect score, we see these ideal relationships when a man is initiating things and a woman is just receiving the attention and paying back with gratitude. So there's this good flow of energy from the man to the woman, in other words. And also, this even mental instinctive compatibility, when a woman's moon sign is pretty close to the man's sign. Ideally, we don't want to see more than probably five signs away. Although opposite signs are always good because they're in the position of partnership, what we call. So opposite signs are always attracted. And so a man, when woman's moon sign is close to the man's sign, he will just quickly figure out that something is wrong with the woman. So he will, he will want to quickly find out what's going on. So there's also this mental connection in this case. So that is respect, and also you can see the actual ratio between the moons. So let's say again, man's moon is in Aries and woman's moon is in the sign of Taurus. So Taurus is the second sign from Aries, and Aries is the 12th sign from Taurus. So we say they have 212 relationships. And that will give you a pretty good idea. So what you can do, you can see what really the second house stands for, because it will activate, in the case of Aries, the Taurus person will activate his second house, and you can see what the second house stands for. So, and then the same thing you do for the Taurus person. Aries will activate your 12th house, and you can see what the 12th house is standing for. So, of course, every sign, planet, house has its negative and positive qualities. And also, it's important to see, I'm already talking about synastry here. You can actually, check it with the other planets. And so that will activate, your partner's houses. But we'll just focus only on the moons today, because again, this is a foundation. So, and again, it's good to see this ratio between the moons. What kind of relationships you have. So some ratios are easier, and like, let's say, 1-7. That's a really good one usually. Moons are in the position of partnership. Also 3-11, 5-9, they're pretty good. They usually give this easy flow. But let's say 6-8 or even 2-12, 4-10, they're more complicated. But again, that will give you a very good idea. I'll just give you one example. Like, me and my husband, we have 5-9 relationship, and we actually don't have this respect because I'm the person who is activating his ninth house. So my moon actually is after his no, hold on, before his moon. So, but anyways, we have other things that really making it and compensating it. So for a long time I couldn't understand why I'm always basically put in the position of his kind of a coach or mentor. Well, that's because our moons are in a 5-9 position, and my moon is ninth from his, so I'm activating his ninth house, and that's why I was put in the position of a mentor and a coach. But you know what? And I was actually resisting it for a while because I'm like, well, I'm a girl. I'm not supposed to, teach him anything. But at some point, he actually kind of even started asking for it. And I'm right now I guess I don't mind doing it. So we actually both like it. So because my spiritual development was like way bigger than his, and he actually right now doesn't mind listening to all my philosophical inputs. Yeah, so and I'm actually happy about it, that I kind of relaxed and just doing my job, so to speak. And like I said, he likes it, so I'm pretty happy about it. Yeah, so that will give you the radio between the moons will give you a pretty good idea about the pattern of the relationship again. Also, you can take a look and see the lords of the moon signs. See how how they go together, if they're friends to each other or not. So let's say we have Aries and Scorpio moons. So they're both ruled by Mars. So these people are usually very attracted to each other, and what it does, it just gives you this feeling of friendship. If the lords are compatible, if they're not getting in the way of each other. So especially when you have the same lord, it usually gives this feeling of friendship. You will have similar interests and you will just have fun together. So it really helps, if you have some other maybe rough edges in relationships, it really helps to find a compromise, and people just will get along really well, in other words. So another thing that is very important, and for some reason not many astrologers talk about it, but in romantic relationships it becomes really important, and often I see it becomes a problem. So anyways, there is this thing of polarity, and it's very valid in sustaining life in general, and it's very valid in romantic relationships, because here it's clearly plus and minus, man's and woman's energy. And so I don't want to use the word gender, because that's where people get confused. I prefer the word polarity. So what we want to see, we want to see one person's chart that is primarily masculine energy, and can be, again, anybody. It can be a woman or a man. So, and how you see it by the zodiac signs. First of all, see where the planets and what signs most of the planets fall. And it doesn't have to be, you know, just 100% feminine energy or masculine energy, but see what is the dominant energy, and particularly the most important one, of course, is going to be, you know, the luminaries, sun, moon, and ascendant, and those are especially important. So see what signs they fall. For those who don't know what signs are feminine, what signs are masculine, I can quickly tell you, but you can find this information actually on the internet. So the masculine signs, it's Aries. It's a very alpha sign. Same as Sagittarius. Also, these are usually very alpha masculine signs. So Aries, Sagittarius, Leo, these are very masculine signs. What else did I? And then typical feminine signs, it's Taurus, Virgo, Cancer. Sign of Gemini kind of doesn't have any gender. It goes both ways. Libra is a masculine sign. What else did I? Libra, Capricorn, Pisces, it's all feminine signs. And Aquarius is a masculine sign. So hopefully I didn't miss anything, but like I said, you can always find this information on the internet. But what I'm trying to say here, we want to see this plus and minus. So one chart has to be primarily masculine and the other sign has to be primarily feminine. Otherwise, you just won't have this polarity. You won't, what I usually see is, and that's usually the case with women. Women usually complain. So a woman can have a very masculine chart, but you know, traditionally we want to see a man who is also masculine. But what happens in this case when we have, you know, two masculine signs or two feminine, two masculine charts or two feminine charts? What happens in this case, you're just gonna feel like you're maybe with your buddy or maybe with your brother. So you just won't feel like you're actually with the opposite sex, so to speak. So you won't feel the person. You may not even feel, you know, chemistry, what people say, what people call chemistry. You may not even feel that if there is no polarity between the people. And also what I've noticed, sometimes I see two charts can be, you know, primarily both masculine, but again, see how important the moons can be. I know one couple, they were just celebrating their 40 years anniversary, and of course I was curious to look at the compatibility. And the woman actually had a primarily masculine chart, you know, and he also had a very masculine chart. And they're both very successful, you know, and the woman is, she's a very strong personality. They both have pretty strong personality. They're both very successful. But what I noticed is when we look at their moons, one person's moon was in Pisces, and the other person's moon was in Sagittarius. So first of all, there is this magnetic attraction, what we call, between these two signs, and luckily the guy had the Pisces moon, so the magnetic attraction was from man to the woman, so that's always better. And so see, their moons were very compatible, and between the moons there was this polarity, obviously, and that was enough for them. So you see how moons can be very important. So that is something that not many astrologers discuss for some reason, but it's very important, actually. Again, it makes sense. It's, our whole life is based on polarity, and same thing goes for the relationships. So, to sum it up, like I said, the foundation is always, it's the instinctive compatibility between the moons. So this is still the foundation, and other techniques like synastry that we often use as well. So this is already secondary, and this is basically an icing on the cake. But the cake is the compatibility between the moon signs. And sometimes I see people can have, immediate chemistry, and that's usually because there's a whole lot of icing. So, when you have planets in the same signs, that's what the synastry is. People will have, strong chemistry, but not necessarily a good compatibility. And I see sometimes relationships like this. It can start off really quick and really hot. But when there is no foundational compatibility, relationship is going to be tumultuous. And it will have lots of ups and downs. And eventually it will, people will break up with a lot of drama usually. So that's what I sometimes see. So I'm going to give you this example with, actually he's a friend of mine, but so he's been looking for a long time for a girl, and unsuccessfully. He just can't settle down with anybody. And so we actually compared his last few girls, just to see if there is a pattern, and I've seen a pattern right away. So one thing was that so some problems were the same from one girl to another. There were the same problems, and even the girls had very similar aspects in their charts. So that was actually pretty amazing. So he's been stuck in this pattern for years. And so this last one, that was actually, the case with the polarity. So he was dating a girl for 6 months, and their moons actually are pretty compatible, Leo and Aquarius, so they're opposite signs. And they were very compatible moons. And maybe if she just had the moon in Aquarius, maybe they would be still together. But the problem was that most of her planets were in the sign of Aquarius, and he had a lot of planets in Leo, so they were basically both very masculine. And what the guy said, they were dating for 6 months, and he said we never fought, we never had any fights, but in 6 months he got bored. See, that's what usually guys say, they get bored, they don't feel you, they won't feel you. That's what happens, because they both had masculine chart. And plus, you see she had a whole bunch of planets in Aquarius. So I took a look, and she did have this, what we call Saturn planetary personality. So that's actually another thing. Well, but it's a big topic. Planetary personality, you can quickly see somebody's personality by the dominant planet in their chart. Very often it's actually the final dispositor, if you know what it is. So she had a Saturn personality, and he had a Mars planetary personality. So Mars and Saturn, they're enemies. And I told him, good that you broke up, because I think in the end it would become very belligerent relationship, I think. And they had other interaspects that would actually only prove it. So anyways, yeah, Saturn personality people, especially, in the case of girl, yeah, they are a little bit, what I usually hear about them, people might be a little bit boring. Yeah. But I wanted to give you this example based on the principle of polarity. So that's what happened. They were dating, for a few months, and then the guy just got bored. That's what happened. Because, but otherwise, their moons are pretty compatible. And yeah, so that's what happened. And also they, by the way, didn't have a sexual compatibility. In spite of compatible moons, I could see right away, and by the way, it happened with all 3 girls that we took. So, I mean, that's another issue there. Why he keeps getting this kind of girls who are sexually incompatible. So what happened, when I looked at the Venus and Mars signs, they went completely across. So completely incompatible signs, both moon and the sun. I mean, both, oh my God, both Venus and Mars were incompatible with all 3 girls. It's unbelievable. They even had them in the same signs. Girls had their Mars and Venus in the same sign, all 3 girls. I don't know how he did it, but yeah, that's what happened. So, yes, this is, just one example. And once again, I repeat that the foundational compatibility is between the moons, and what we call the synastry, it's an icing on the cake, and it's it's good to have when you have this planets in the same signs. It can really enhance the good thing. If you have the good foundation, it will really enhance your compatibility. It will give you that extra spark, extra chemistry. But if icing is what you have and no cake, so there you go. Relationship will just not sustain itself because there's no foundation, Okay, so that's something I wanted to discuss. So these are very simple but basic relationship techniques, and in the next video we'll discuss something else. Okay, well, good luck to everybody, and see you in the next video.